He's opinionated. He's unapologetic. He's always real. He is Brett Mason. This is the Brett Mason Show.
Well, here we go. Welcome into the Brett Mason Show. I am Brett Mason. And this would be the Liberty Report with Brett Mason, not to be confused with the other shows that I do, of which there are many, I might add. I'm all about doing fun shows and sports shows and everything, but this would be the political-leaning show from a libertarian standpoint because after all, I am a libertarian. Little L libertarian. I'm not officially a part of the capital L Libertarian Party, and nevertheless, I espouse libertarian viewpoints and libertarian principles, and pretty much all that entails, which basically boils down to maximum liberty possible. The right of the United States American citizen is to reserve unto themselves the maximum amount of liberty possible. And so when someone tries to curtail that liberty in some kind of way that is not consistent with what is spelled out and in line in the Constitution, I tend to get my feathers ruffled just a tad. I tend to get upset just a little bit. So, not sure what else I can say about that. It just is the way that it is. I have a couple of things I want to talk about on the show today. We're going to talk about I guess it was the third presidential debate hosted by CNBC. One of the worst things I've ever seen ever. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything that bad ever in the history of ever. Few decent things came out of it, but for the most part, those moderators were going far and beyond their duty as the press. And look, one of the great things about the press and why we have the freedom of the press spelled out in the Constitution of the United States of America is so the press can be hard on politicians. They're not supposed to get a free ride. They're not supposed to get a free pass. Not supposed to be simple for them. Not supposed to be, lobbed up softballs. So I don't have a problem, and neither should anybody else. You should not have a problem with a press that I can't even say the word now. Let me see if I can come up with another word. Vociferously goes after political hacks. And that's their job. They don't do it. You have the conservative side of the press who goes after liberals, and they do it in a disingenuous way most of the time. And you have the liberal side of the press that goes after conservatives, and they do it in a disingenuous way most of the time. Very little is derived from it. The press doesn't do any independent, hard-hitting journalism. They definitely do not stand up for the Constitution. They only stand up for the theories and programs and spending and taking away a freedom that their side likes. So if you watch the conservative news sources, you're going to see them present everything that conservatives do in a positive light for the most part. The taking away of the freedoms, the spending money on their pet projects, of which they have many, and all these things. And the same goes for the more liberal side of the media. They do the same thing. They staunchly defend the spending of your dollars on the things that the liberal side thinks is great, and they staunchly defend the taking away of your freedoms where it suits the liberal agenda. So there really is no role of the press as it should be. That being said, I still defend the right of the press to go after somebody in a hard-hitting kind of way, and I did. We'll just talk. I was going to talk about this Anthony Bourdain, Donald Trump thing right off the bat, but we'll just start out with the debate since I already got into it. Asking questions like, Isn't your campaign the equivalent of a comic book campaign or whatever that stupid question was? That's just ridiculous. Like, you're not after somebody in a hard-hitting way. You're not trying to determine if they're on the side of liberty and freedom and if they're going to be a staunch defender of the Constitution. You're not learning anything with that question. You're just attacking somebody, and you're trying to do it in a cute, sarcastic, I'm edgy kind of way, and it benefits no one. It didn't benefit the viewers. No one benefited from that exchange. Let me tell you right now. On the other hand, there was the moment in time where they asked, was it Rubio? Marco Rubio, his local paper said that he should just resign from the Senate. And he got offensive about that. Well, look, that's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate question as should you become a senator and only serve a few years of your term and then jump into the fracas for the presidency and kind of leave your constituents hanging because, look, when you're running for president, that's not something that you do on a part-time basis. You pretty much are full out 100% on the campaign trail. You're meeting with fundraisers, meeting with donors, making phone calls, making stump speeches, showing up for debates, recording commercials. Your life is consumed with running for president, and the people who, theoretically, the people who suffer are the people who are, that you are supposedly representing. So, do I think that was a little bit legitimate question? Absolutely, I think that was a legitimate question. I don't really see how you can get around that in any kind of a way, shape, form, or fashion. How about well, there was a couple other questions like that. So let's just let me just throw down how I felt about the candidates being attacked and what it means in terms of trying to select the best person. I think they're all crybabies. I'm just going to be honest with you. Way worse things are going to happen to you when you win the presidency. When you become president, it's going to be bad. Everybody's going to be against you. Even your own party's going to be against you. They'll be for you for a little while. But there hasn't been one single president that I can think of in recent history where by the end of their term, their own party wasn't after them and attacking them. Your own supporters, people who thought you were going to do something based on some promise you made somewhere and you just never did it. I was watching videos the other day where this liberal journalist, was attacking Barack Obama and showing all these clips of how day one he was bringing the troops home and ending the war in Afghanistan. And then you jump to today, and I think we still have a force of about 10,000 over there, and they're debating sending more over there. And it's been 8 years, nearly 8 years. It's been 7 years. He's losing a lot of support. He's losing a lot of black support. I'm not sure if Mike Tyson is a great example or representative, but he's coming out. He's like, we tried, we tried Obama. Let's try somebody on the Republican side. I believe Trump's who he's endorsing. And so, that always happens, but they're going to ask the hard questions. They're going to get in your face. They're going to be disrespectful. And not only that, you got to deal with tyrants around the world. If you can't, with some type of elevated sense of being in control, being above the fray, if you can't do that to some little unknown, because I didn't know any of those people on that panel. I take that back. The guy who does the show on stocks, I can't think of his name now, Michael something. I recognized him, but I don't know who those other people were. I don't ever watch that station. I don't watch any station. I go in search of my news for the most part. But I know who those people were. Why are you allowing them to dictate your demeanor? Why are you allowing them to dictate how you respond? Because Ted Cruz was the worst. I've never seen it. And then after he cried for a full minute, then he wanted to cry some more and want to answer the question that they asked originally. Look, you blew it. You were a crybaby. And look, I'm a libertarian, but of course I'm more lean on most issues, especially the ones that were being asked at this debate, supposedly, which is about the economy and things like that. CNBC is a business network. I lean more conservative on those issues. And so I theoretically, I should have been team all those guys up there and on their side. And like Cruz, it turned my stomach. I was sitting there thinking, is this how you would respond if Putin insulted you? If you had Muslim extremist come out and make a statement and insult you or speak to you in a way you found demeaning, is that how you would reply? Would you go on a 60-second rant about it and complain about how you weren't being treated fairly? Or would you rise above it and be presidential and show some leadership? Jeez, come on, people. What kind of people are running for president? We don't have anybody. We don't have anybody worth a damn running for president on either side. It's so ridiculous. And I see people talking about how there's too many, we got too many Republicans. It's hard to get. I mean, we're having 2 rounds of debates, the lower card, then the main card. And you look over on the Democratic side, you really have a token aggressor in the form of Bernie Sanders, who's running against Hillary. I would nearly bet every bit of money I have that Sanders will not be the nominee because he just doesn't fit the DNC mold. And I'm afraid the same is for Donald Trump, though. But we'll see where that goes. I mean, the problem is the only other people anywhere close to Donald Trump right now are, I think, equally as unappealing. One of those we're going to get to. It would be Ben Carson, who I guess is his contemporary. I don't know if it's his contemporary or not. I don't know if that's exactly the right word or not, but he's the guy up there with him in the polls right now. And so if you look at him, I don't think he meets the mold of what you would be looking for. I mean, in my opinion. And I think he really, really, really dropped the ball last night in the debate big time on this whole issue of supplements because, they've really come down on this Dr. Oz, this quack on TV every day. And every day he's got a new cure for cancer. You take this pill, you eat this twig, you eat this herb. Now, look, I've done a lot. It was due to the situation, me and my mom. I've done a lot of research into this, and there's absolutely huge benefits of going to a vegan diet, getting a lot of foods with high phytonutrient levels in them. It's been shown over and over and over again. But out of all of those things, there's no supplements that ever really seem to do anything. Things like that, you got to have the real food. You need to eat the greens, not some powdered green you put in a shake that you find at some health food store. They're 2 different things. There's no living enzymes in ground up greens that are dried out and powdered. There's no living enzymes. There's no life there. But nevertheless, they questioned him about being with this, questionable whatever type of company, and he denied it. And they're like, "Well, your picture was on their website," and he said that was a mistake. That happened without his knowledge. I was willing to believe him on it because honestly, out of all the people up there, the 2 that I find that I would believe would probably be the most genuine in their answers and lie the least would be him and Rand Paul. Those are the 2 I lean to and go, you know what? I think we probably would get honest answers out of them. Comes out today, though. Anything you make is going to be on the internet. But it comes out today. There's this video, and it's quite a lengthy video, 4, 5, 6 minutes or something like that. It's Dr. Ben Carson talking about these supplements, these glyconutrients and stuff, and how he's been taking them for 10 years, and how amazing they've been in his life, and all this kind of stuff. Forget having a picture on their website that he didn't know about. He recorded a very long video for them and their company and the supplements. Like I said, it's about a 6-minute video, but here's a little taste of what's in that video if you'd like to listen to the things that he said that supposedly he had no part of.
And very importantly, putting the right kinds of nutrition into them to fortify their body and allow them to fight is by far the best way to go. And the thing that really struck me, was glycoscience, glycobiology, and how that could impact, for instance, the immune system or various other aspects of the human body, what it could do. And it attracted me to the point that I actually began using those kind of products. I still use them to this very day. And, I can't say that that's the reason that I feel so healthy, but I can say that it made me feel different, and that's why I continue to use it more than 10 years later.
Yeah. Well, you can't say that it had any health benefits because that'd be against the law. You can't make those claims. But 10 years? Come on, he's been up in bed with them for 10 years. Oh, look, I don't have a problem with it. Here's the thing is I don't have a problem with it. It's a free country as long as the supplements are legal and there's no issues with those. I think the man is free to associate and do business with anybody he wants. But the problem comes in is where he denied it and lied about it. That's the same thing the impeachment of Bill Clinton happened over. Lying. It wasn't the fact that he was doing things that you shouldn't do with an intern. It's the fact that he lied about it. And I remember the conservatives were all up in arms. Like, well, you can't have somebody in the White House lying. Can't have liars in the White House. Well, if that's your criteria for having people in the White House, then Ben Carson has immediately disqualified himself. As a matter of fact, you probably toss everybody off of that panel. Everybody lies. I'm sorry, everybody lies. Some more than others. So, that was the most disappointing thing to me. By the way, if you're listening live, I think I can put you on with a phone call. I have the phone set up. I'm not sure if I can get the phone on or not, but there, if you want to, if you're listening and you're like, God, I'd like to tell this guy what's up. The number is 334-403-4500. 334-403-4500. I think I can put your phone call on, but honestly, I'm not 100% sure about that. I'll just be honest with you. I think I can, though. So the last issue that I'm going to talk about is this Anthony Bourdain, who had some comments to say about the Trump immigration plan. Now, I have to tell you, as a libertarian, I have a different opinion on immigration than the Republican Party does. And not all libertarians, because libertarians just like Republicans. There's different shades of libertarian, and there's different shades of Republican, different shades of Democrat. So you can find libertarians or people who call themselves libertarian that agree with Donald Trump's opinion on immigration. And then you can find libertarians who have the exact opposite opinion. But I don't necessarily fall in line with the conservative opinion on immigration. I could do a show on immigration and tell you exactly what my thoughts are on it. Maybe I will. But we're not going to get into it for the purposes of this show. I'm going to talk about this Anthony Bourdain, who irks me to no end. I know that for about a 3-month period, every channel I turned on had a commercial running for Anthony Bourdain, who was eating here and looking at food here. He had like 5 shows going at the same time. And I just don't find him entertaining. But that, nevertheless, I don't hold that against him. There's a lot of people I don't find entertaining. What I do have is an issue with his idiocracy over his opinion on what would happen if Donald Trump's immigration plan were put into effect. And his quote was, every restaurant in America would shut down. They'd be up the creek. It's impossible to find people to do those jobs. So his contention is that without illegal immigrants, restaurants would not be able to hire staff for the restaurants. He goes on to say, and this is a quote, direct quote, I grew up in the restaurant business, 30 years in the restaurant business. I came out like a lot of other white kids. I rolled out of a prestigious culinary institute and went to work in real restaurants. I walked into restaurants and always the person who had been there the longest, who took the time to show me how it was done, was always Mexican or Central American. The backbone of the industry, meaning most of the people in my experience cooking and preparing your food, 20 of those years in the business, I was an employer. I was a managing employer. Never in any of those years, not once, did anyone walk into my restaurant, any American-born kid, walk into my restaurant and say, I'd like a job as a night porter or a dishwasher or even a prep cook? They're just not willing to start at the bottom like that. Here's where Anthony Bourdain is wrong in his assertions about immigrants and the restaurant business. There's always going to be restaurant businesses because people like to go out and eat. I would venture to say that probably there's never been a time in history where people eat more foods out. I haven't dated anybody, with the exception of, I think, my last girlfriend that I dated. She was into cooking, mainly baking, but she liked to cook and she liked to try. But she was raised that way. She had a situation with, I guess, a stepmom that made her do a lot of the cooking and cleaning. And so she would be the exception. Most every other woman that I've dated or went out with or had a relationship with, and I guess in 20 years, none of them know how to cook, nor did they want to know how to cook. That's just the times we live in. So the restaurant business, there's a market for the restaurant business. So suddenly as if magically tomorrow there were no more illegal aliens willing to work for money under the table for nothing. What would happen to the restaurants? Well, there would suddenly be a big vacuum of available jobs. And they would need people to fill those jobs. And so what they would have to do would be raise the price of what they will pay people to do those jobs. Instead of paying them under the table $1 an hour or whatever, however that works, $2 an hour or something like that, you'd have to pay somebody $10 an hour. $8 an hour. You got to get a look. I'll pay $8, $10 an hour, $12 an hour to come in here and wash dishes all night. Look, I'll pay you to come in here and be sous chef, be fry cook. You know, it's $12 an hour. I don't know, $10, $12, whatever the price is, whatever the price that the market settled on, and the market would settle. The market will always settle on a price that's conducive to the market conditions, supply and demand. That's the way the market works when it doesn't have outside influencing forces like the government. So what would be a result of that? Well, I think a couple of things would happen. Some restaurants would close. Some restaurants who are barely eking by, they aren't in high demand. They're able to get by in an economy where they have such a much lower overhead that they can have a lower quality product. They can have a lower clientele and get by. Yes, those restaurants would close. Why would they close? Because they'd have to raise their prices. And so if you can think of, and I bet if everybody listening right now thinks of it, you know a restaurant that you go to that isn't the greatest. It's just okay. It's just okay. It's not horrible. The food isn't horrible. The service isn't horrible. But the food isn't great, and the service isn't great. It's just okay. That restaurant would probably close because you wouldn't go pay a premium price to eat there. And the price would go up. Make no mistake. The price of eating there would go up. On the other hand, great restaurants with great food and a great experience or whatever, they'd stay open. The prices would go up. You might eat out one time less a month or something to make up the difference, or you probably wouldn't. I don't know. You would still go out to eat. Trust me, the restaurants would not close. And you would see a beneficial effect. They'd be paying more to their employees, which would mean there was more money in the economy, more money with less people, mind you. We now have less people making more money. So what happens? You have a smaller population. You have a richer population in comparison who is now spending more money. Rising tides raise all boats. That's what happens. You would see a lifting effect. The economy would actually improve. So, yes, there'd be changes. There would be some restaurants that wouldn't make it. There would be some that would have to revamp who they are. They would have to go through, a herding phase before they figured it out. So you'd lose some restaurants. You'd have some restaurants adapt and overcome. And you'd have the upper tier would be fine. They'd just raise their prices a little bit, and they'd go on about their business. End of story. So, Brett Mason, are you advocating for the tossing out of 11 million? No, I'm not advocating that at all. I'm just saying that he's wrong. I'm just saying he's wrong about what would happen. He's just wrong about what would happen. Anytime you have a vacuum, it's going to raise demand for people to fill that vacuum, which means you're going to have to pay more. Now, that increases the cost of goods and services to the restaurant, which means they have to charge more, which means that the people who go and consume those products and services have to pay more. And it would happen. There would be some casualties, but I think overall it'd be a net benefit to the economy. I don't know how it couldn't be. You'd have less people, more money going into the hands of regular old spenders. I think it'd be a great leg up for people. I mean, it's the problem. There's nowhere you can start now. There's nowhere you can start out now and get a decent wage to sustain you till you move on to your dream job. Because for most people, washing dishes is not their dream job. Washing dishes in a restaurant is not their dream job. But there's many, many people willing to do that if it advances their agenda to what they really want to do. And that's the way life works in America. That's what these people who are demanding outrageous amounts of money to work at McDonald's don't understand. McDonald's is a job to just hold your own. You get by and hold your own until you get experience. You do some networking. You get to know people. You have a goal in mind. And at some point in time, you move out of the McDonald's ecosystem on to better things. And somebody else who's just starting out and don't have it together yet, they move in and they supposedly do the same. But now we got these people that are just willing, I guess, to flip burgers the rest of their life, and they're content with that. They're like, this is just what I want to be, a burger flipper, and I want to get paid a good wage to do it. Well, I'm sorry, there are no good wages to flip burgers. There just aren't. That doesn't mean you're lesser of a person. That doesn't mean that your skill set isn't needed or wanted. It is, but it just isn't worth as much as you want, because there's somebody that'll do it cheaper. But that's another issue for another time. I can't get into economics on this show in 30 minutes, and that's what I'm going to try to start doing, is do 30-minute shows. And I believe I have successfully done that. But I can't talk tonight. Thanks for listening to the show. Remember, liberty is the greatest, most precious resource that we have in America. Cling to it tightly.
Download the free Android or iOS app. Search for The Brett Mason Show.